Hello, 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 hello. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Is everything functioning? It looks like everything is functioning. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Hello, hello, hi, hello, hi. I'm wearing my bunny hat. And you know it's trouble if I'm wearing the bunny hat, because the bunny hat is specifically for stopping people from getting upset at me too quickly. We have to have a little bit of a serious conversation, okay? And when we try to have a serious conversation, it means we have to wear the bunny hat, because if I don't wear the bunny hat, people get afraid of me too quickly, and I don't like. It's okay. Look, we have a bunny hat. Nobody panic. Nobody panic. It's gonna be okay. This is not a stream that is intended to shit on everybody. This is not a stream that is intended on being like, oh, we're just gonna beat down on individuals or anything like that. This is gonna be a stream that is, we're gonna try and keep it chill, but it is gonna be a little bit more on the serious side. So of course we have to balance out that seriousness with the goofy bunny hat. That's how you know it's serious. I've got my serious hat on. Somebody should call up Mr. Serious. We need him for this. Okay. Okay. Are we ready? Are we prepared? Are we prepared? Yeah, it looks like everybody's filtering in. Okay. So we have to have a little bit of a serious conversation about the United States, and about what's going on with Iran and sort of what's going on globally. Let me just check my audio settings. I want to make sure I'm loud enough, because my throat is a little bit sick, and I just don't want to yell and talk loudly. So if I could avoid that, great. Let's go to there. That should be fine. No, my knife's right there. I've also got my big giant shit show mug, but that's okay. All right. So we have to have a little bit of a serious conversation. Do I have honey lemon? No, I was drinking lemon ginger, and now I've got some lemon and mint. So. Okay. So let's talk. Oh, hey, Gio, welcome. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be okay. I'm just a little bit scratchy. Serious. Yes, we're on serious business today. So we need to talk about the United States. And I've seen a couple of comments, both in my live chat and in other places. It's not just like my live chat particular. That is the rest of the world getting more and more hostile towards the United States in general, right? Now, I think shouldn't be that much of a surprise. And you're seeing more comments about how the United States is stupid, and how like everybody's kind of like had it up to here with not just America, but the sort of average American individual on the internet. Now, what do I mean when I say that? This is why we have the bunny hat on, okay? I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I am simply trying to dig through the how people are going to feel about this, and sort of get down to the level of what these things actually mean when they're being expressed, and what can we do about it, or how do we handle that, all right? So, bear with me. I don't think anybody should really be surprised that people on the internet are being more hostile towards other people on the internet that are from specific geographical places around the world. For a very, very long time, both on the internet and in other places, America has had the people who live in America, and I mean the general people who live in America, not every single individual, but an overwhelming majority of Americans have this idea in their head that is, there is America and then the rest of the world, and nobody cares about the rest of the world. It is very much America first, and is very much like, I'm an American, therefore everything caters to me, and America is the most important place. That has been sort of a philosophy that has driven the United States for a very, very, very long time, and it is baked into the culture. particularly if you start comparing America or the United States to other countries and the way those other countries view the rest of the world and the way they treat other people. So specifically, if you want examples of this, most people in the United States won't be very good at geography, for example, like knowing where another country is or knowing what money other places utilize. People in the United States have a bad habit of saying, like, every other money isn't real money, only American money is real money, which is fine as a joke, but when the meme becomes what people actually believe, it becomes a little bit of an issue. So a lot of the idea of the way sort of people in the United States think tends to lead itself towards some really, really big problems when you look at things on a global level and when you look at things on an internal level. So, for example, getting history fucking wrong. It has been a long running meme on the internet, a long running meme that Americans don't know history. They don't know their own history, let alone any kind of global history. Like, it's been a running joke on the internet for a very, 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 very long time. And for the most part, for the longest time, everybody has just been like, oh, yeah, whatever, America. Yeah, yay, woohoo, America, World War II, yeah. But it's mostly just been, like, placating or, like, pandering or, like, we're just gonna pat you on the head and send you on your merry way. Is uninformed and stupid different? I mean, that's a good question. I think it can be both. I think you can be uninformed and stupid. Because the problem isn't necessarily that the American, like the American that I'm speaking of in this general sense, isn't that the problem of them being ignorant isn't really the issue. It's the fact that they're ignorant and they don't care to be correct and will still act like they're right. It's the confidently incorrect part that we're sort of getting at here. Right? And I'm talking in generalities. I'm not talking in individuals. Not every individual is like this, and not every individual is like this about every topic. But there's been a long-running meme of people from the United States who are playing games, and they're playing, like, Call of Duty, or they're playing fucking Halo, or they're playing Overwatch, and they say some dumb shit about history, and then they get it fucking wrong, but now everybody stopped being so nice about them getting it wrong. Because everybody's kind of been like, okay, yeah, whatever, yeah, okay, of course, the average American doesn't know anything about the historical context of the political structure of Germany during the 30s, right? Of course they don't. Or, of course, nobody in the United States has a very good understanding of the war in Somalia, right? Or, of course, the average American, nobody has any expectation of American citizens to know dick shit about the history of any other country. And a lot of the times, the person from the United States will be proud of that. They'll be proud that they don't know, or they'll be proud that they shouldn't. Why should we have to know? You aren't important. Only America is important. And that is a very long-running vibe that has been a thing for a very, very long time. Now, again, we're not talking about individuals, we're talking about a vibe. I'm sure there are plenty of individuals who are from the United States who are very well educated and are very well not like this at all. If you would like another example of this, when you are listening to American politicians talk, this hyper individualism, a lot, and I've seen it before. I've seen it even in my side chat. People from the United States, when we try to talk about these things, say, "Well, not all Americans." This hyper individualism When it's like, yeah, of course we're not talking about every single fucking America having this exact fucking thought process. No, that would be insane. America's a massive, massive, massive place with lots and lots and lots of people in it. Of course, people are going to be different. I'm sure you'd be able to be like, well, I'm an American and I know about Somalia, or I'm an American and I studied, I went to university for World War II politics, poli-sci. And of course, there are going to be Americans who will know. But I'm sorry, but you're hardly representative. And that's part of the problem. And part of the problem isn't necessarily whether or not what I'm saying is more or less accurate for individuals in America overall, but it's more of the expectation that other countries have, that and other people from other countries have, that is the problem. The same way I'm saying that there's a vibe about Americans, there's also a vibe about that I'm describing about the other countries that you might not have noticed. That the other countries are fucking sick of your shit. And that's not going to be every fucking person in every other country does not have the exact same opinion, right? But this defensive hyper-individualism is a fucking problem. And it's not bad to have individualism. That's not what I'm saying. It's totally fine to be individualistic. It's totally fine to identify yourself as an individual within a larger group and yada, 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 yada. The problem that I'm seeing in the United States is that is hyper individualism, and that hyper individualism is leading to the divisiveness in politics. April in the chat said, the Americans I keep in my circle friends, and there's a lot, are all lovely people who know things. Social media Americans, however, are flocking dumb. This is what I mean. I'm sure you will absolutely have Americans who are individuals who very much do not fall into these categories. And that's fine. That's totally good. If the generalization doesn't apply to you, then it's not about you. Part of it is that you're correct, Wendy. Part of it is though is that there's I saw some interest. Well, let me show you this. Let me show you this clip. This is Philip DeFranco. I'm just gonna play this clip for you guys real quick, just to give us a jumping off point, because I feel like I might be getting a little bit out of order. So let me play this and see.
Only country in the world. America is the only country in the world where a majority of people think that their fellow citizens are bad people. Pew Research polled 25 countries, and in nearly all of them, most people said that their countrymen have good morals. But not in the US. 53% of Americans say their fellow Americans are morally and ethically bad. Which, just for comparison's sake, 92% of Canadians said that their fellow citizens are good people. And also the partisan split here is interesting. 60% of Democrats think that Americans are morally bankrupt compared to just 46% of Republicans. So also you have experts saying that the deeper issue is that morality itself has become a political weapon. Or you had one scholar explaining that when political leaders use religion and morality as tools, polarization erodes trust in lots of other ways. And so the reason that Canada scored so differently is that Canadians tend to blame people in power rather than each other. But Americans, they largely blame each other. And unfortunately, that's by design. When your leaders convince you that your neighbor is the enemy, you stop noticing what your leaders are doing. And unfortunately, the elites, they're great at pulling puppet strings. And so, while I have a lot of disagreements with people, I hate when it gets boiled down to left versus right, because as always, and this has been, I think, since the beginning of time, it has been the top versus the bottom.
So there's some interesting things in here, right? Especially like the habit that the United States and Canada have of comparing ourselves to each other. So let's do more of that for a minute. Because that seems to be a habit that we have. And I think part of that has to do with, because we have a lot of things in common, we have a similar history, and we are geographically incredibly close to each other, right? If you look at the poll that he posted up there, I believe it said 95% of Canadians. Yeah, sorry, 92% of Canadians, as opposed to think their neighbors are good people. As opposed to, what do you say, 53% of Americans think each other are bad people. That's over 50%, and that's a big fucking number. Please remember how fucking big the United States is. Right? So this individualism, I think, is a little bit part of the problem. When you're a special little boy, right? And I think there seems to be a heavy lilt in the United States with this individualism that comes with this degree of arrogance, that comes with this degree of entitlement, which is bizarre in some ways. It's very like counterintuitive because like Americans will be out here being like, I'm very entitled, like I deserve everything in the world, but fuck you, you don't deserve anything. But they're literally talking to the person across the street. It's like, what? So it's like you feel like you're entitled to everything, but also think that nobody else is entitled to anything within your own country. And it's bizarre. It's so strange. And it's just this hyper individualism that just throws so much just out of whack for the average American, and especially when it comes to politics, right? And again, it's not everybody, but the problem isn't that it's not everybody. The problem is that it is everybody, and it's just baked in to a specific degree. It's like this is nurture and culture, and so people who think they aren't doing it are doing it. They don't realize that they're doing it. They just might not be doing it as much as the other guy. And so like I'm at this point where I'm watching even people from the United States arguing with each other about the same thing, about who's more and I'm like, they're the same? They're the same. They're just maybe different degrees, or amounts might be smaller or larger, but it's the same thing. And so I felt like we needed to talk about this a little bit because it's kind of actually crazy. And it's just this pure lack of education or giving a fuck. This proud ignorance of being like, I don't need to care about what any other country is doing. I don't need to care about any other country's politics. I don't need to care about anybody's leader until, like, I feel like I want to for 30 seconds, and then I go back to ignoring it again. Right? You want a good example? Venezuela, recently. When was the last time the average American thought about Afghanistan? Because I guarantee you, Afghanistan still got some shit it's dealing with because of, American influence. But on average, you've got an American perfectly comfortable walking around being like, well, this is the way it should be over there. And then walking out, and then like flipping the tables over, and then walking away, and expecting nobody to, and everybody to think that that's normal, and that everybody should actually thank them for their presence. It's so strange. Caring would mean you have to actually do something. Well, there's that. There is that. It's this expectation that this is the expectation that other countries have of the United States. Again, this does not mean that this is every single individual on the internet or in America that behaves this way. What I'm talking about is this is the way the rest of the world views you. This is what the rest of the world thinks about you. And so if you do, even if this isn't you and this doesn't describe you as an individual, the reason you're getting the reaction that you are, and you're getting the analysis that you're getting, and you're getting a little bit more aggressive reactions from people who are not from the United States on the internet that you didn't get before, is because this is the way the rest of the world is viewing the United States. And the rest of us do not. We know that does not need to. No, it does need to be said 500 times. It absolutely fucking does need to be said 500 fucking times. Because nobody expects the United States individuals to fucking listen either. So we have to repeat ourselves over and over and over again. When the rest of the world's expectations of you are so fucking low, it does not necessarily mean you as an individual did anything wrong. It doesn't mean that you as an individual necessarily need to change your behavior. But you need to acknowledge the problem. And the problem is the United States. So, let's take a look.
Hope your day is starting off just great. Let me speak to you in this video with this beautiful picture behind me. This is Clearwater Lake Provincial Park, addressed to the nation. The president sitting behind his desk in the White House, speaking directly to the nation on all the news networks, explaining the U.S. position, what the plan is. There's been a lot of different U.S. officials just giving different opinions. The president phoning into different news agencies and having 4 and 5 minute conversations on the phone. And saying different things in different phone calls. There's really been no coordinated, formal, direct communication to the American people and to the world explaining what's going on.
That is a very good first point. You currently have the President of the United States starting what is potentially World War III, and there is no fucking coordination from his own government and his own staff explaining what the fuck is going on and why we're doing it. And the American people are fine with that, as far as the rest of us are concerned. I'm sure there are a handful of you that are not fine with that, and I'm sure there are a handful of you that find that is absolutely unacceptable. But guess what? You're not doing enough about it, collectively, as the American people. And the reason I can tell you why you're not doing enough about it is, 1, because it's still ongoing, and 2, because on a global scale, you are not getting any fucking attention. If I go to the BBC, if I go to CBC, if I go and pick another country's media, and I go look at that media, you know what they're not seeing? They're not seeing big, massive protests about Iran. Doesn't exist. You might see 1, you might see 2, couple articles maybe, but you would think going to war and having a populace that is not okay with going to war, like, so for example, if you want another example, also from the United States, Vietnam. There were massive protests about Vietnam. And those protests got, even when there was less information available and less information fucking going out there, there was still more coverage, more press. You see why people are already upset. This look at the hat. Look at the hat. Look it. It's okay. It's okay. Don't get upset. We're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I'm not here to tell you it's all doom and gloom. I'm just here to tell you that it's wrong and you need to figure something out about it. Don't worry. So, let's keep going. The fact that this is like the way way America is behaving on the world stage, and the why it is being received by the rest of the world that it is. Because when you understand that these two things are a problem, you can start to do something about it. And if I don't demonstrate how and why it's a problem, you can't actually fix anything, right? So we need to get to the point where we understand what the problems are, why they're a problem, then we can start figuring out. That's the goal here. Don't worry. We'll get there. It's not all doom and gloom, don't worry. This is not an America fucking sucks stream.
And this isn't an accident. This is a feature of the new U.S. administration to just do what they want to do and then flood the zone with different opinions and different comments and let the media just sort it out. Just let the various news stations and different social media platforms just disseminate a sea of BS that all Americans can swim in. Now I'm going to show you 2 clips here. One from a staunch Republican that's involved in the administration, and one from a very left-leaning pop culture figure in the United States. And these 2 clips will paint the picture of what it really means to be American these days. The first clip.
So what he's demonstrating here is that he's got both sides, and we're going to see what both sides are saying.
We're going to watch is comments from Mark Rubio, the Secretary of State in the United States. And he's going to explain in his words, in his view, why the United States attacked Iran.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because The Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage.
Okay, so this guy should win an Academy Award for the best performed circular argument ever done live on camera. It would be like...
Good job, Mark. You're an idiot. Good job, Marco. Good job, Marco. High five, you fucking loser. All right, we don't need to talk about all of the things that were wrong with what Marco said, but go on.
Me trying to explain an analogous situation like this. Well, I went to a restaurant the other day with my wife.
Hey, listen, I am totally fine with, if you are an American right now and you feel like the U.S. sucks, please feel free to express how much you feel like your own country sucks right now. I'm just not currently here to tell you that your country sucks. Not right now. Maybe another day, but not right this second.
And we were quietly sitting at our table having dinner. And I noticed that a friend of mine was sitting a couple of tables over having dinner as well. And I could see him looking at another guy standing at the bar. And I had a suspicion that that friend of mine was going to go up to the bar and punch that guy in the nose. And I thought, well, if my friend goes up there and punches that guy in the nose, he might get mad and come to my table and slap my wife. So I had to act. I had to defend my wife. I had to go up to the bar myself and punch him in the nose myself, just to stop him from retaliating and slapping my wife if that friend of mine went up there and punched him first. I had to defend myself. And like I said, I think Mr. Rubio deserves an Academy Award for
actually
his performance.
Insane.
I don't really believe that he thinks Americans are so stupid that they'll just accept that explanation.
The problem is the way it's viewed right now is that a lot of people from outside of America do believe that a lot of Americans just accept that answer. Now, you as an individual in America might not accept that. Or you might not accept that answer, but you might accept another one from this administration that is not put in from the left and the right that are just putting out nonsense in totality. The rest of the world thinks that the United States citizens are just accepting this administration and what it's doing. That's part of the problem. Again, you as an individual might not just accept these things, but I'm talking about the way you're viewed by the rest of the world, not what is actually true for you as an individual. We're talking about perception here, and we're talking about the way you are received, right? Not what you actually are.
This is part of a strategy of just flooding the zone with different nonsense. Now, one of the other reasons that's been given is the United States wants regime change in Iran. So now let me play you another clip. Not a US politician, a very left-leaning comedian, a late-night host. You probably know who he is. He's doing comedy about the topic.
Now that the Ayatollah is dead, the question is what happens next? Who takes over in Iran?
President Trump told the New York Times he has, quote, 3 very good choices for who could lead Iran.
Okay, well, he's got some ideas at least. That's good. So what
I really think if you wanted to make that a joke, then the joke really should have been he's got the concepts of a plan.
happened to those 3 candidates?
He said the attack was so successful, it knocked out most of the candidates. It's not going to be anybody that we were thinking of because they are all dead. Second or third place is dead.
Second and third place is dead? That sounds like they're announcing the results of the Coney Island hot dog eating contest after a salmonella outbreak. First place is dead.
This is Seth Meyers, what would be presumed in the United States as a left-leaning late-night talk show host. So he's like a comedian.
Second place is dead. Third place is in critical condition, and now we are hearing dead.
That was Seth Meyers, a late-night host in the United States, doing comedy. You've probably watched him before. And a lot of these late-night hosts incorporate current events into their comedy. But let me just comment on what you just saw there. There was a guy, a comedian, making jokes and getting big laughs. And the joke was about the United States is killing people in Iran, killing the leadership in Iran. The government talked of an objective of regime change in Iran. And there were a couple of candidates that the president thought might be good candidates to take over if they could kill the supreme leader. But the US was so powerful that their military strike killed people that could have taken over, that could have been the people that represented regime change. Ha 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 ha. Isn't that funny? Let's have a big laugh. Maybe there's someone holding up there a sign that says applause. And that it's a big joke. This is comedy in the United States now. Now, I know that comedians sometimes, there's a line when you do comedy.
All right. So I'm going to stop it there for a minute. He's going to go on and make another point, which is fine. We'll get to that. This video makes a really good jumping off point for some of the stuff I want to talk about. So thank you, Mr. Kellerman. Also, you guys should totally subscribe to this guy. He's great. If you want Canadian news that is not like bogged down in too much bullshit. Okay. So I think that we need to remind the people who live in the United States about some more recent history. Specifically 9/11. What happened in the United States during 9/11? Anybody? Anybody? Raise your hand. Give me some comments. What do you guys remember about what was happening on the news in the United States when 9/11 happened? What were the news outlets talking about? You know, your MSNBC, and how are they covering the incident? The Patriot Act happened. Yep. Rage Against the Machine songs got banned. Yeah. Never Forget? Yeah, that was a thing. It was pretty solemn, wasn't it? It was pretty, like, tense and solemn. Yeah. And how did the rest of the world, how did their news cover it? Did the BBC have some solemn news about the way they covered 9/11? I remember 2 towers falling in Canada, taking American planes because they closed the airspace. Yeah, that happened. Yep. With us or against us? Yeah, with us or with the terrorists? Yep, there was that. Swept up in a fervor on unrealistic ideas of fighting them over there so we don't fight them here, which made absolutely no sense. Yeah, something along those lines. Do you remember the BBC articles, or the way BBC or CBC or French articles, anywhere from Denmark, Norway, Germany, how the incident was covered by those nations? Was it all relatively solemn? Was it all relatively like, damn, that sucks for America. Oh shit, man, that's really scary. Wow. You mean it wasn't a bunch of late night hosts making fun of a bunch of dead Americans? Because haha, very funny, teehee? No? It wasn't. Non-stop coverage on all the channels in Germany, I remember, because it was my first day of school, and I only realized later that they weren't playing a movie after about an hour. Yep. Yeah, we got pulled out of school too. I got pulled out and brought to the gym to watch the coverage and talk about what was going on. See? Look. Chatara's nailed exactly what I'm getting about. Asking Americans about what other countries thought is asking a lot. That's part of the problem. The Americans don't fucking know about the way the rest of the world reacted to America getting terrorized. Geo says 9/11 was the first day of of second grade school year for me. I remember coming home from school and going to the playground, and then my parents calling me a few hours later to the news. CNN were 24/7 on it. Yep. Tasmania, and on all of the other channels as well. Yeah, Australia. Fucking everybody on the planet was fucking on about this. Fucking everybody. And the Americans don't even remember, or let alone knew at all, that the rest of the world was like fucking, not only had their back, but was also incredibly respectful and had tons of coverage, and everybody was talking about it. Thoughts and prayers and shit. On the other hand, if you want another example, now that a couple of days has passed and the United States are shocked Pikachu face that Iran has responded aggressively with attacks, I can't help but remind the United States and the United States people what the fuck happened when they got attacked in World War II. You guys sure don't like getting bombed, but you guys sure are fine bombing the fuck out of everywhere else. And this is the way the rest of the world views you. Caustic, volatile, violent, rude, arrogant. These are all words that you will regularly get as the vibe check if you ask somebody what you think about an American. If it's just a general, just an American, or America, the country. We don't think you know anything about any of us. None of us believe you know a damn thing about any of us. And that is consistent as fuck. Wendy says, I was in high school by the time I learned anything about how the rest of the world reacted to 9/11 and the following wars in Call Me in the Middle East. And I literally watched the towers fell. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's the next question, right, Jessica? Are they wrong? If you're from the United States and you're watching this, and do you honestly believe that they're incorrect in their perception of the United States and their observation with those descriptors? It might not describe every single individual, obviously. But like, if I say, what do you expect to see when you see a bear in the woods? What do you expect? And generally everybody has the general response of what you would expect from a bear. Well, obviously it's not going to be every single interaction with every single bear every single time. Tom in the chat says, I remember a professional telling me that the rest of the world didn't understand how affected the US was by 9/11. My brother in Christ, we literally never heard the end of it. I got asked if I personally knew Hitler because I'm German once. We were standing next to a tennis court in the United States that just came unprovoked. Jesus Christ. God fucking damn it. Nobody thinks that anybody in America knows anything about any other country. And in fact, we all kind of think you're a little bit dumb. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And not because we think you're dumb, as in like, hey, you can't learn anything and you're stupid. No, we mean that you're dumb and you're dumb on purpose. And you ask really dumb questions. Like, if you thought about it for 30 seconds, you would know that your question is fucking stupid. If you knew anything about the topic you're asking the question about, you would know that your question is dumb. Hey, Eggy! Hi, Eggy! Good to see you. I'm wearing my hat to make people less concerned that I'm not trying to be aggressive. There was a gun range where they projected the bombing video into the range so people could shoot at the city. Good fucking God. I would like to remind everybody, we're talking a little bit about 9/11, but let's talk about Japan for a second. Let's talk about World War II for just a second. Besides the fact that the United States did their best to stay out of World War II for as long as they fucking possibly could, the time that they joined the war was after they got bombed at Pearl Harbor by Japan. And in response to getting bombed one time in one area, the United States not only joined the war, but nuked Japan twice! 2 times! My guys, my brothers in Christ, are you fucking kidding me? I am convinced at this point that people who live in the United States have forgotten Pearl Harbor and have forgotten that 9/11 happened. They actually just think they're allowed to go do whatever the fuck they want in another country as long as it's not on their own soil, quote unquote, because they don't fucking give a shit about anywhere else in the world. They don't give a fuck. And I mean this about individual Americans, because either they find an excuse to immediately give up, to never do anything about it, or they don't know enough to care. How the fuck do you think America would react, the United States and the United States people would react if somebody fucking bombed the White House and killed America's leaders and potential leaders that come after Trump? So fucking, you just take what happened to Iran and you reverse it and have, instead of America attacking Iran, it's Iran attacks America, blows up the White House, Donald Trump is dead, and they're like, oh, well, don't worry, we've got some other people for a regime change that we want to do over there. There's a couple of candidates, and it's like, oh no, J.D. Vance is also dead, and Stephen Miller is also dead. Right? And here we go, Orange, you're showing the exact problem I'm talking about. Quote, stop yelling at me about it, though. Do you see the problem? Do you understand? Do you understand the issue? This idea of this individualism, where you as an individual get used as a defense mechanism by your own brain to not be able to not have to deal with the fact of the matter. Don't tease me with a good time. Yeah, I know, I'm all like just fucking yeeted, yeah. Do you really think the people of the United States would accept a foreign country coming in, bombing the shit out of all of your political leaders and installing their own person? How would the United States react to that? The difference from how we in Belgium look at the USA in the 80s and 90s is day and night from today. Right now, the United States is obviously a threat for the free West. Yeah. There is also, keep in mind, another degree, right? You've got another degree going on here that is the economic terrorism that the United States has actively been doing since 2025, and the active economic terrorism that they tried to do in 2016. This is, again, I would like to remind you, you are on Trump 2. Trump episode 2 you're on. This isn't the first time. This is the second time that you've got this motherfucker. And the rest of the world is supposed to believe you that you're sorry and this isn't your guy? This is the second time you voted him in. This is the second time. You didn't stop him the first time, and he came back even more powerful the second time. You took him to court, and then nothing happened. What do you expect anybody to think about you outside of America? How would you view yourself if you were outside of America? What do you want from the rest of the world, guys? That's my question. What is your expectation? Because it seems to me that the expectation that that the average American, or even like just Americans as individuals, seem to think that people should treat you with respect. And my question to you is why? Why do you, and I don't mean to say that to like talk down to you or say that you shouldn't be treated with respect. I'm asking you, why do you think the rest of the world should treat you with respect? Please tell Elmo. Please explain this to me. Yeah, round 2 was seen as, what the fuck, America? Are you serious right now? You serious right now? Also, sus. Geo says, quote, you didn't stop him the first time and then he came back even more powerful the second time is something I've heard before. Yeah, no shit, right? Borg says, well, yeah, like, Borg, we already got economic terrorism. That's already happening. And it's happening, like, the United States has been doing economic terrorism on a global scale on top of direct economic threats with a larger goal of destabilizing allied countries. Specifically, Egged says MAGA would 100% be against it. The people who are against it, the OAL, only Americans left, would 100% take a foreign person coming in and doing that. You think so? I don't know. I think like in like the imagination, I could see it being a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, there's a word. My brain is coming up with the word narcoleptic, and that's not the correct word at all. You know, when it feels good. But I don't think in reality, I don't think that would go over so well. It was fun in games when the libs were getting owned, but now that we're suffering, now he's not our guy. Okay, so let's talk about the not our guy rhetoric for a second. So I've seen this a couple of times. I've seen this isn't our guy, he doesn't represent us. This isn't our guy. Whether you voted for Trump or not is not important at this point. It doesn't matter. Who you voted for at this point in time is now irrelevant, especially not particularly with what I'm about to get into. Donald Trump represents America. It is his literal job. And he doesn't represent me as an individual. Your individualism that you're jumping to, that's trying to defend you from this, you need to throw it in the trash for a minute. Put it on the shelf, put it in a little box, put it away, compartmentalize that for a second. He represents America, period. That means he represents you. You cannot like it, but it's a fact. Again, this is the second time that Trump has been voted in. Not only the second time that he's been voted in, but he also ran 3 times. The fact that he was allowed to run at all is offensive by nature. You have to accept that this is what is currently representing you. And if you don't like that, and you don't want this to represent you, you need to do something about it. That you can't expect the rest of the world to fucking carry you in a handbasket. The only people who 100% support Trump and Trump now are fascists, racists, and PDFs. Literally, the cult of MAGA unanimously supports him. I agree. And Wendy also makes another point. Individualism is not going to overthrow fascism, goddammit, Americans. And Jessica says, no, we're never going back to neoliberalism. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. This is not a question about you, an individual. This is a question about your country as a whole and the way that your country is viewed by the rest of the world. Donald Trump currently represents, and his administration represents you on the world stage. Period. And we do not have the privilege as the rest of the world to pick and choose individual Americans out of the woodwork. That's not up to us. We don't get to do that. It's not how it works. Especially when you're declaring war. I will remind you, for example, because again, we're back to America joined late because they're selfish. And the United States didn't participate in half of the shit that Canada was doing in World War II. When Canada was fighting Nazis in World War II, Canadians that were fighting did not stop to ask, "Are you German though?" They did not stop to find out if each individual German was there because they were forced to be there because of the political circumstances at the time. All they cared about is that they were on the other side and had guns. If you expect the rest of the world to treat you, the individual, as special when you are declaring war against literally everybody, you are fucking delusional. You're kidding yourself. You're lying to nobody but yourself at that point. Because that is not going to happen. And again, Orange, exactly the problem. Shit on for stuff I was not alive for. Bitch, where? Where? What are you talking about? This individualism is one of the reasons why racism is still such a big problem in the United States. The United States seems to be incapable of acknowledging historical mistakes because everybody is too busy wrapped up in this little individual package to be like, well, I wasn't alive at that time, therefore I'm not responsible for it. That's not how it works. You've got the shit in your hands. You might not have shit in your hands, but the shit is on your hands now. It's your responsibility to go wash your hands. You've got to pick up the fucking pieces of the people that came before you. Now, hopefully, the people who came before you had your best interest at heart. I don't think they currently do. I don't think the people that are in charge of the United States right now give two shits about the fucking stuff that they're doing now and how it's going to affect the people that come after them. And that's going to be really difficult to deal with. But if you don't know how to deal with it, learn something about a country that is outside of your own. Because you know who had to deal with that and had to deal with that a lot? Germany. Germany had to deal with that a fucking lot. You know who else had to deal with that a lot? When all of the other countries separated from fucking Russia. Ukraine, for example, off of the top of my head, had to deal with the shit that their country did beforehand. You know who else has had to do that? Canada. Canada has had to acknowledge the problematic shit that our country did historically. Because guess what? The people who came before that did that shit are fucking not alive to fix it themselves. They're not here. They can't fix it. Even if they wanted to. So guess what? It's on us. It's on us to fix that. It's on us to do what we can to make that better. It's on us to do what we can to encourage change in a way that is fucking useful. I don't understand how how expressing the things that have actually happened in history is equivalent to shitting on you, the individual. It's almost like it's not. Victoria in the chat says, and side note, after you wash your hands, you should at least try not to grab shit again. Shit again. Waving from Germany. Germany's been through a lot. Other countries have been through a lot. You can look at outside of America. You can look at outside of America and be like, hey, look. Other people exist, and they do things. differently sometimes. And sometimes those things work and sometimes they don't. And we could maybe try some of those things. Right? Imagine that. Those who fail to understand the past are always doomed to repeat it. Yeah, you have to know history and understand it. And I don't think there's a very high expectation of anybody that... I don't even think Americans expect other Americans to know history very well. Even their own history. Haged says, to be honest, I don't expect the rest of the world to trust the United States, especially after everything that has happened so far this time around. I generally believe the world will drop the US dollar soon. Maybe. Not using the dollar as the through line is probably a fucking thing that'll happen, yeah. Wendy says, you want to know what the best thing I learned in therapy was? Quote, just because it's not your fault doesn't mean it's not your problem. Yeah, just because you didn't do anything, you can fix something that is not your fault. Right? If somebody else knocks over your favorite mug, and then that person is gone, and you want your favorite mug, you can glue it back together. You could fix your mug. Are you just never going to use your favorite mug again because the handle broke off? Because someone else dropped it? You can put that back on, or you could just, use it without the handle. Summerchild says, not a Summerchild says that dealing is what a lot of our right-wingers have a big problem with. A lot of people don't understand the difference between being guilty and being responsible. That's a good point. There is a difference between guilty and being responsible. You don't have to have punched somebody in the face to administer medical care. Do you think doctors run around shooting people so they can do the sutras? No, most of the time the doctors are busy, curing people. They didn't cause the disease. Like, that's not... This isn't half a dozen and the other, my guys. This is exactly why I wrote the hat. But, I mean, I'm glad that Orange is here, because Orange is a very good example of exactly what I'm talking about, right? I don't mean that as a slight towards Orange. It's just an acknowledgement, right? Horse doctors do. I mean, actually, a lot of doctors go around giving shots, but, but oops. I wasn't kidding when I said Moses wrote the 10 Commandments. Yeah, fucking seen that shit. So let's keep going. I wanna cover a little bit more of this.
You incorporate real events, and I'm not suggesting that Seth Meyers is an evil, terrible person and a warmonger. His audience and he and other late night hosts are known to be completely anti-Republican and against the administration and do not stand for what the administration is doing. And they have mainly Democrats and left-leaning people watching their show that are listening to this and laughing. And it just, if you fly 30,000 feet and look down and try and just understand what's going on in the American condition, there is something called the American condition. It's an infection. I call it the American derangement syndrome. It's not everyone else that has the derangement syndrome in our opinion of the United States and Americans. It's Americans that have their own derangement syndrome. They've created a society in the United States that their politicians, their news agencies, I say news in quotations, their social media, their pop culture stars like Seth Meyers and different comedians, they are all desensitized and numb and live in their reality TV show. This is how Americans communicate, and this is the type of stuff that they absorb, regardless of the political spectrum, what their ideology is. To them, it's a big joke. It's not real. It's just, let me try and describe it this way. The average American has a certain concept of what war is, excluding military personnel and people that are actually involved in the war and are actually involved in the armed forces. I'm talking about the average American, the regular schmo who's swimming in the sea of BS down there, living in the reality TV show that is the United States. Their idea of war is something that they watch on TV, something that happens somewhere else, cool videos that they can watch on television or on social media of fighter jets flying through the sky, or anti-aircraft fire shooting up into the darkness of some city in a country that they can't point out on a map, or black and white images released by the White House of a close-up of a boat or a truck with crosshairs on it, and then an explosion and it's gone. They can watch this stuff on X or TikTok on their phones while they're in line at Starbucks. They can go home at night and then relax on their couch and watch a comedy show where they can laugh about it all, have a good laugh. Oh, we were going to regime change. We killed their leader, and there were 2 other guys that could have taken charge, but we were so powerful we killed them too. Ha 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 ha. That's the reality in the United States. That's the American derangement syndrome. From an outside observer, being a non...
Exactly. This is exactly what I'm getting at. The Americans don't know, and they don't fucking care. They're gonna accidentally just destabilize and murder other people in other countries willy-nilly. It's fucking unacceptable. And when you tell this to them, they don't fucking listen. And immediately, that individualism, that hyper-individualism blinders come up. Well, that's not my administration. That administration doesn't represent me. Yes, they do. They literally fucking represent you. That is literally their job. And this is the second time they have been voted in. This isn't a one-off fluke. This isn't a left versus right issue either. This isn't something that is only fucking the right wing is doing. He's talking about a left-wing show. He's talking about the leftists. He's talking about the Democrats in the United States. And there's another problem that Victoria points out, and we can get into that a little bit, is that the late show hosts are more consistent and better at delivering the news than the United States news shows are. Chitara is correct. This is systemic. It is a systemic problem. It is not just a systemic problem, it is also a psychological problem. It is a philosophical issue. Gio says, yeah, I've made the same point before. The Americans have the problem that their country was never completely destroyed and ravaged by war. Yeah. If they had seen this in living memory, they'd all behave completely differently. Yeah, war is something that happens far away to somebody else, to other people who aren't like you, which is one of the main reasons why I do not think the United States will go to war with Canada on their own soil. Seth doesn't have to be a leftist. Especially as an individual. See, you see that individualism coming in immediately? It's not about that. Doesn't matter if he's left, doesn't matter if he's right. The demographic that watches Seth is majority left-leaning. In United States political terms. Admittedly, the United States political spectrum is lilted incredibly to the right? So, yeah, war happens on TV. Yeah, Civil War. I don't know, the Alamo? Did we forget about the Alamo? America fighting in California with Spain and Mexico? It's not about left or right. It's about the entirety of the United States having this philosophical problem. Was the Alamo before the Civil War? Yeah, tells you what I know. Remember the Alamo? So you have these problems, right? Even though the leftists would be at least center-right here in Germany. Yeah, The leftists in America? Yeah. I never even learned about the fucking Alamo in school. I learned the Alamo by going there. I learned about the Alamo from a movie. I'm pretty sure it was called Remember the Alamo or something like that. But regardless, this is not an issue of political left or right, and this isn't even an issue of upper or lower class. This isn't even a class issue. This is a philosophical problem wrapped into a psychological evaluation that the United States needs to do on itself. There's nothing wrong with individualism. There's a problem with hyper-individualism. And that hyper-individualism being used as a shield to protect your own sensibilities from general criticism of anything in the United States. It's Big Brother, guys. This is Big Brother syndrome.
Non-American looking in. It's really quite sick. And that's why if you asked any Canadian this question, what is the main characteristic of being Canadian? What's the definition of Canadian? What does it mean to be Canadian?
Before he answers, I want you guys to tell me. You guys tell me, what do you think it means to be Canadian? And tell me what country you're in. So be like, my country, this is what I think it means to be Canadian. I want a rough idea of what you guys think. And I'm gonna give you guys a second to do that. And I'll be right back. All right, how did you guys do? Depends on if you're Quebec. Germany, maple syrup, mooses, and hockey. Igloos, maple syrup, and moose in the back garden. I have no idea how to answer that question. I was going to make a joke, but this is a serious conversation. Canadian passport. Someone with a Canadian citizenship. Being Canadian means eating maple syrup and inventing war crimes. You guys are the hockey guys with maple syrup and healthcare and call people butt a lot from Germany. That's all the stereotypes I can think of. Canada represents a more orderly history of gaining independence. Yeah. American living in Toronto. I'm not joking. Every Canadian I'll talk to has not given a single fuck about what Canada did to Indigenous people. Really? That's interesting. Being Canadian, because we talk about that a lot in our politics. That's actually in our news quite a bit. For example, the premier of Manitoba is of Native heritage. One of the things we talked about when we talked about the campaign that was going on between Poilievre and for the Prime Minister campaign is that Poilievre got the Indigenous leaders at the convention stood up and turned their backs on him when he was talking. It was huge news. Pretty stereotypical, but I've seen from Canadians in person is friendly, neighborly, and polite. Huskies to pull a dog sled around? Yeah. Canada. To be Canadian is to be free to pursue your happiness and enjoy your culture while allowing others to do the same and symbolically enjoy the benefits of everyone else's culture. The word hoser is pretty good. I like that one. Honestly, though, for me, Canada is about being like the US, but without the idiocy. Going to a fight and a hot ice hockey game breaks out. I see a disturbing number of Canadian MAGA online. You will notice that Canadian MAGA almost only exists online. It barely kind of peeks out in your day-to-day, you'll find, I think. I feel safe assuming Canada is likely doing more for Indigenous people than the United States. Well, it's really weird. Canada has done a much better job in respecting their First Nations in words, but the U.S. has done a better job in actually granting independence to the tribes. Yeah, there's a weird legal bunch of contention around. You know what? We'll talk about that one day. If we dive into it now, we're gonna never get to the end of this. So we should come back to that. Part of this is just geography. A lot of the tribes wouldn't be able to survive in rural Canada. Yeah. Part of it is there's a lot of it's a complicated problem. It still needs work. But let's see what Kellerman says.
The number one answer you always get is, well, it means we're not American. And do you know why that's always the number one answer? Because it's true. We aren't Americans. There's something different about Americans. Americans have become so desensitized. They live in their own bubble of arrogance and superiority across the political spectrum. And I'm not passing judgment here on whether this particular action against Iran is justified or not in this particular case. And there have been instances throughout history where the United States has been the moral authority in the world, and they've stood up for what's right, and they've been very direct in how they've approached things. There have been instances in history where the United States has stood firmly with its allies on the side of good versus evil. The big example, of course, is World War II, which, by the way, the US was very reluctant to enter and tried to stay out of and had no appetite for even getting involved in until they were attacked themselves. But now,
like I said, the way the United States treats other people is not the way the United States can handle being treated. Both politically, on a global scale, both economically, and both in war and from a society base.
now they've gotten to a point where it seems like they're eager to just launch military actions without any formal explanation or communication to their people or the world on why they're doing.
Yeah, remember that the United States is also not supposed to be at war with Iran right now.
Doing it. One of the main reasons that this particular administration was elected was because they were against endless foreign wars and U.S. intervention around the world and on.
I don't think that's true. I think that was one of the major talking points that this administration had to try to get itself elected, but I don't think that was ever the reason they got elected. I don't think that's the reason they got elected, because you'll also notice a lot of people who voted for them, who claim that they voted for them on that standing alone, don't care anymore. It's almost like that was never the reason. It's almost like it's a personality cult or something.
On and on wars, spending U.S. money and attacking and bombing different countries. The whole idea was America first. And now here we are. I think this is the 7th or 8th country that the United States has bombed, really without any input from Congress or without any formal discussion on why they're doing it. And the pop culture in the United States now is to absorb this information, make jokes about it, put it on late night comedy shows, put it on TikTok videos, have memes on X, and the average American absorbs this stuff as if they're just watching a TV show. It's something that happens over there. They're desensitized to it. War.
There's also something to be said about following the law when you are the person in power, because that's a thing that's obviously not happening. Donald Trump and his administration are not following the law. They don't care. Congress doesn't care. The Senate doesn't care. The Supreme Court doesn't care. Your entire government system is a fucking joke. Because as much as they don't care and are blatantly wishy-washy, allowed to do whatever the fuck they want, and then argue about it in court later, kind of, because weren't the tariffs voted on to be illegal and you're still doing tariffs? It's a joke. And that's not about left or right. That's not about left or right, because guess who's not doing anything to stop this? Guess who's not in a position to do anything to stop this? The opposition. Wait for the midterms, wait for the midterms, wait for the midterms. Why? This is Donald Trump part 2. The Democrats had the House and the Senate and the presidency, and they didn't prevent anything about having Donald Trump 2 Electric Boogaloo. In fact, Donald Trump 2 Electric Boogaloo has greater power than he did in his first term. Think about who the fuck in the United States right now has in positions of power. Not just Donald Trump. Donald Trump is one. Stephen Miller. Pam Bondi. Kristi Noem just got removed. Look who she got replaced with. RFK Jr. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. You do know that, like, people had to approve these people. Like, they had to be approved by government bodies, and they were. They got approved. Why? What are you doing? How do you think that looks to the rest of the world when you pull out of the World Health Organization? When you play patty cake with whether or not you're part of NATO anymore? When you are doing economic terrorism against the rest of the world? When you're imprisoning your own citizens and either deporting them or keeping them in gulags? If you want to know how the rest of the world views that, I don't know, how did the rest of the world view it when Germany was doing it? Not fucking great. Trump doesn't have that long. Trump isn't a threat. You don't get it. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump, even if he has one more day, he's a threat. Because he's gonna keep doing shit. Because why would he stop doing shit? There's literally nothing fucking stopping him. I feel like one of the things that a lot of Americans that I've talked to are hoping for is that Donald Trump will go away and the ensuing power vacuum of the cult will eat itself alive. And I think that's optimistic. That isn't never going back what Kamala Harris ran on. Wasn't that her campaign slogan? What a terrible campaign slogan. What would stop him? What would stop Donald Trump? You're focusing on the wrong thing. There's an old Green Day song, Do You Know Your Enemy? And I don't think the people in the United States know who their enemy is. Donald Trump is important, don't get me wrong, but it is a systematic problem. Stopping Trump doesn't mean anything on its own. Trump will carry on even if Trump dies. The American dream is killing me and American idiot, yeah. People forget that Miller, Rubio, Vance, etc., they're all the issue. Well, Miller, Rubio, Vance, Kamala, Biden, they're all the issue. The current standing, the entirety of the House and the Senate as it and the Supreme Court, Kavanaugh, that one guy who took a bribe for an RV. The lack of term limits where you've got people that are barely functional making votes on the direction of the country. It's not these individuals that are in these positions that are the problem. It's the system that is set up for these people. Right? It's not who's actually sitting in the seat. That's the issue. It's the fact that whoever is in the seat is able to do whatever it is that they're doing. That's the problem. The name of the person at this point is irrelevant. It is the entire fucking structure. Yeah, Clarence Thomas, thank you. Oh, hey, Dave. Hey, Dr. Davis. I'm gonna start calling you Davis every time you call me Vishanti. The problem is the philosophy of the society. That's the fucking problem. And that's not to say that other countries don't have problems. Canada's got an issue, right? Do what then? You want me to tell you? You're the American. Learn something about other countries and figure it out. It's up to you guys. I mean, I could make suggestions. I suggest learn something about other places. Stop lighting your house on fire while you're still in the house is probably a good idea too. The problem is we have, it's a structure. The oligarchy is a bit of an issue as well. There's lots of problems, and it's just a matter of figuring out how to deal with them. It's going to be up to the Americans to figure out how to deal with them. I've seen people from America being like, Canada, come liberate us. Quick, we need some freedom. And I'm like, my guys. And yeah, Jessica's got the perfect point. I could tell you what to do, but that would require people to actually care. And people in the United States don't care, and they won't care until it's bad enough. And it's not yet bad enough. But what I'm trying to point out to you is that a war in Iran, economic terrorism on a global scale, blatant and flagrant corruption on top of a complete disregard for the lives of American people and foreign people and American citizens and refugees, widows and orphans, assault, are not enough to make the people in the United States care enough. So you tell me, Americans, what is enough to make you care? I don't know. The Epstein files? Almost? Maybe, not quite. No, doesn't seem like it. But money. But money, though. But what about the money, though? We got the money, though. Something I noticed, Noise Ending says, something that I noticed when I was traveling Europe during the Bush administration was that a lot of Europeans knew more about our politics and current events than we do. Yep, that's what we were talking about earlier. Yes, correct. Hello, welcome. That's part of the problem. Not only do people in other countries expect that Americans don't know shit about them, but also other Americans don't expect that other Americans know shit about themselves. It will be too late in the poem by the time most Americans will care. Oh yeah, I think you're already too late in that poem for Americans to care. But if you want some more, like, I pulled up a bunch of examples to be like, This is such a fucking problem. I saved a bunch of examples, so I'm gonna show them to you because I brought them, so I want to use them. Look, I talked about them. I wanted to bring it up. Look at this shit. Short-term oil prices, which will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat is over, is a very small price to pay for the USA and world. Safety and peace, only fools would think differently. President DJT. Can you imagine any other fucking leader saying this? This is not fucking normal. Stop acting like this is normal. It's not normal. This is not fucking normal. This is the poll that I already showed you and talked about, so I'm just gonna skip this one. When I first started out as a journalist, I thought it paid to have a background in US history when covering America. Then I thought it would probably be better to be a constitutional lawyer with expertise in jurisprudence. Now I think it would be useful to be a psychiatrist. Iran, which is being beat to hell, has apologized and surrendered to its Middle East neighbors and promised that it will not shoot at them anymore. This promise was only made because of the relentless US and Israel attacks. They were looking to take over and rule the Middle East. It is the first time that Iran has ever lost in thousands of years to surrounding Middle Eastern countries. They have said, quote, "Thank you, President Trump." I have said, "You're welcome." Iran is no longer the, quote, "bully of the Middle East," end quote. They are instead the loser of the Middle East, and will be for many decades until they surrender or, more likely, completely collapse. Today, Iran will be hit very hard, under serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death. Because of Iran's bad behavior, are areas and groups of people that are not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Should we walk through that one? Should we walk through this real quick? They've surrendered, but you're beating the hell out of them even though they've already surrendered, but they haven't surrendered. But they're a loser, but they haven't lost, but it's going to collapse, and you're going to bomb them until they collapse, and now you're getting other targets after you already bombed 2 girls' schools? Are we sure the United States isn't the bully of the Middle East? Have you ever seen another world leader give such a fucking incoherent fucking statement about a declaration of war? Are you fucking kidding me? This is the person who represents the United States. Again, you might not like it. You might disagree, and that's great. That's great. But you have to acknowledge that he represents the United States, which means he represents you as an individual, which means the rest of the country has to treat you like the threat your leader is being to everybody else. Canada isn't going to spend its time picking through which fucking businesses are the good businesses when we're boycotting you. Like, that's not gonna happen. We don't have that kind of privilege. The United States goes to war with fucking everybody, then people aren't gonna have the privilege to fucking not take you all as a threat seriously, because it is a collective, it is a country that we're dealing with, not just each individual. Excuse me. America's problem is social, not political. I kindly beg Americans to stop being so arrogant to other people from other countries. It's a social philosophical issue. I think there is like the philosophical issue, I think, is leading to a larger psychological issue that is sort of demonstrating itself through social psychology, which sounds complicated. It's not. It's just the way people behave as a group. America behaves this way partly because it believes it is in a position of power. People who live in America believe America hype, right? A lot of people in America believe America hype. Even the people who don't agree with the administration or people who are any part of the political spectrum, a lot of people in the United States believe their own hype. They believe that America is the strongest, is the best, when it comes to like either militarily or what their economy. They're really high on the own supply about the economy. Yes, everything is political, but that's not what you know what we mean. You pedantic. So, Looney Tune in the chat makes an interesting point and says, this is the result of the government looking out for the interests of capitalism at the expense of working class, get degraded public services and shaped to conform to the system of the capitalist. I think there is a degree of that for sure. I don't disagree with you. But I would say that that's maybe older than I think a lot of people realize. So I think how would I phrase this? I think the way I would put it is that American individualism has been baked in since its inception. Like, it's not new, and it's just been twisted and turned, and like, again, individualism itself is not a bad thing. During the formation of America and the formation of Canada, one of the main reasons we are not American is such a big thing, we're not the United States is such a big thing in Canada, is because it's baked into who we are. Most of the early people who lived in Canada, a lot of them were people who moved away from America because they didn't like the way America was going before the War of 1812. So definitively being not America is baked into being Canadian. The same way this hyper-individualism is baked in to the United States. Because part of it has to do with the way the country was formed. We're not Britain. We want to be our own people. We are individuals in blah, da, 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 da. For the people, by the people. How would I compare the United States and Israel's society and attitudes? I don't know. I don't know enough about... I'd have to look a little bit more at, like, Israel's... I don't know enough about Israel to say. I don't think. To make a valuable comparison. I'd have to spend some time. I only know a little bit, and I don't think it's enough to do a reasonable comparison. The whole American exceptionalism is a belief that Americans are superior and chosen by God. Yeah, that's also a whole big fucking thing. There's a big religious extremist problem, but that's another issue. Pete Hegseth claims Donald Trump has renamed the map of North America prior to the Ukraine invasion. Putin used the same tactics. He claimed that Ukraine was not an independent nation, just part of Greater Russia. Fuck your Greater America, Trump. You are a criminal. Pete Hegseth, quote, Trump has drawn a new strategic map from Greenland to the Gulf of America. We call this map the Greater North America. This is why the rest of the world views you as a threat and has to treat it seriously. Because this man fucking represents you. Pete Hegseth isn't just some random nobody American. He's not some random politician. He's a fucking... He's in charge of, like, war and shit. Here we go, Mike Johnson.
They have been, and they say the quiet parts out loud. They wanted to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, and they'd like to take us out as well. We're the great Satan in their analogy and their misguided religion, and there was no way to appease them. And defiant, they have been, and they say the quiet parts out loud. They wanted to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, and they'd like to take us out as well. We're the great
Mike Johnson is framing this war with Iran as a religious war, guys. A religious war.
Satan in their analogy, and their
Iranians have a misguided religion. Quote. Dr. Kip says, yeah, I have often said that not America is the most ingrained Canadian cultural distinctive. It is one thing that unites us all. It really is one of those things. On the other hand, it's also one of those situations where, like, I don't think the difference between Canada and America has ever been so stark.
In the United States now, it's like, let's see how we can work that material into our comedy show. Do you know what war means in other countries? In the countries that the United States is attacking? War means there's bombs dropping next door, or the school down the street exploded and there's 150 children died, or the power station blew up and we don't have any more electricity, or the oil and gas refinery just exploded so we don't have any more heat and we have to start burning our furniture to stay warm during the winter. That's what war means in the rest of the world. Americans, you understand this, right? You understand this because you had one day. I
don't think they understand this. I don't think they understand this, or they forgot about it, or they don't fucking care. The reason they don't understand this is because they haven't thought about it for longer than 30 seconds. And it's infuriating.
One day when you understood what war was, and that was September 11th, 2001. For one day, you understood what it was, and it changed your country forever. Because of that one day now, whenever I travel and get on an airplane, I'm not allowed to bring my toothpaste on my carry-on, and I have to take my shoes off before I get on the plane. The whole world changed when there was one day of war in the United States. But now the United States and their pop culture and their media talks about war as if it's a joke. And even people that are against the Republican administration and on the extreme left side of the spectrum there, that are just completely desensitized to the whole thing. And, well, let's make some money on having a good laugh over it. It's just, and this is why I don't want to do videos about the war on Iran and start trying to come up with opinions and justifications for what's going on, because no one really knows the reason that there is a war in Iran now. The only thing I know that is a fact is if you list the top 5 countries in the world ranked on their oil reserves, you can look at that list and understand that the United States has made a huge effort to control those countries, either economically, Canada's on that list, or how many countries on that list has the United States dropped bombs on. You make up your own mind why there's a war on Iran now, whether it's regime change or whether the United States had to preactively defend itself on a possible counterstrike from Iran after Israel proactively attacked them in the first place, defend ourselves proactively, or whether it's to disarm Iran, whether Iran was imminently close to developing nuclear weapons, even though the United States dropped some bombs on them a couple of months ago and said they obliterated their nuclear program. Whatever the reason is that you want to believe is fine. I just wanted to present these 2 examples, the Republican politician and the Democratic-leaning late-night pop culture icon in the United States, both engaging.
All right, so I'm going to come back here and I want to make the point. I already saw at least one person get irritated and be like, oh, well, all these people just hate me because we're talking about some of the socioeconomic and psychological, philosophical problems in the United States. Why shouldn't people hate the United States? You tell me. Give me reasons why the rest of the country, or the rest of the world, shouldn't dislike the United States. What makes you feel entitled to have everybody be nice to you? or have everybody like you. And why does the way somebody from outside your country views your country and the administration and the general vibe of what's going on and what the United States is dealing with, why does that come to you as you take that as an individual dislike? Because you know who else did this and had the same kind of I'm not just talking about like anybody in particular in the chat. For anybody who's in the Discord will remember Debbie did the same thing. Comes into the Discord, fucking thinks that being critical of the United States or its administration is a threat, or saying that they're going to attack, or saying that they're it's insane. It's insane. Because there's nothing wrong with the United States itself. You know, the soil is all right. It's just the people that are the problem. Well, you know, people ruin everything. Guns are fine. It's just the people that are the issue. You said my French fries are cold. I'm calling the FBI. People hated Germany, and for good reason. What's so different about the US now from Germany back then? Don't forget that in order for the rest of the world to trust Germany again, there was a huge effort to repair it. Yes, indictments, trials, executions. Germany did so much. Germany did so much, and the fact that an American will come in and be like, derp to derp, well, what do we do about it? There's nothing we can do. What am I gonna do? The people don't like me. They disagree with me. What am I supposed to do about it? Guys, not only have we done this before, but you've also seen what happens if you continue down the lane that you're going. Not even just from Germany's point of view. Fucking Israel, Afghanistan, large portions of the of the Middle East have shifted from different types of governance in the last 100 years. But I think we should do another stream. Because right now we have to acknowledge the problem before we can fix the problem. And right now we're at the first step. We need the people in the United States to understand there is a fucking problem in the first place. And the number of the people in the United States that don't understand that there's a problem is too damn high. Let alone the people that are actively saying, no, this is good. Because that's another step. You've got people who think what's going on is not okay. You have people who don't acknowledge the problem. And you have people who think this isn't a problem at all, it's a feature. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the fucking people who think this shit is a problem is not nearly enough people. And if you want people to change their minds, I have a great show about this. We talked about this with some philosophers over on Debate Hub, and I recommend checking that out, where we talked about this. If you want people to change, you have to make whatever they're doing more uncomfortable than how uncomfortable it is to change. That is the best way, or the most consistent way, for people to change. It's because whatever you're doing is more uncomfortable than how uncomfortable it is to change. That's it. That's the magic dust. That's the pixie dust. There's a disturbing amount of open Christo-fascists at your job. Yikes. The last philosophy show was postponed to the next Saturday, but the one I'm talking about was one that's already done. We did it last year. Germany has done a ton of course correcting since World War II. Yeah, Germany has done a lot. Germany has not only put in work in and of itself, but it's also put in work to build stronger ties with other countries. Like, it's not just, like, it's not all, the work is not all internal, it's also external, because if it's not external, then what are you doing? What a fucking mess. What a fucking mess. Just even if we pick one thing, just pick World War II. Just pick one thing. Just pick World War II. And if more Americans actually understood what went down during World War II and what the United States actual participation rate and numbers and, like, actually what went down and what the political scene was like at that time, just that one thing, like, maybe we can convince the Americans to learn about World War II. Because they already seem gung-ho about it, but that might be more difficult because we have to unlearn them. Everything you knew about World War II is wrong. I don't know. We have to do another stream about how to fix the problem. Because the first step to fixing a problem is acknowledging you have a problem in the first place. If you do not believe or understand that there is in fact a problem, if you cannot acknowledge the problem, then you can't fucking fix it. You need to understand the issues, and you have to acknowledge and accept that there are issues in the first place. God! I've never seen people be so fucking blasé about a fucking war that is potentially World War III. Do I think it's gonna lead to World War III? No, probably not. I don't think so. I hope not. And I don't think so because I don't think fucking the United States is... I don't think anybody's gonna fucking buy into Donald Trump's bullshit, but, you know, whatever. World War III might be fought in America with the way things are fucking going. Forget World War II. World War II was irrelevant. Teach the Americans about the Weimar Republic. That'll fix way more. Yeah, let's do that. Gio, do you want to do a talk? Do you want to do a talk on that? You want to do a lecture? I would love that. I would love for you to do a lecture. Conspiracy lingo with real Americans won World War II. We stepped in and rescued everyone. The Soviets had nothing to do with anything. That's all we know. That's exactly. Oh my god, I played Call of Duty. That's the end. It's more than that, Chesh. It's going to take informing them the problem goes all the way back to the colony. Oh yeah, no, I agree. I'm just talking about like a first step. If we pick one thing, what is the one thing we should choose? Also, no one's coming to Iran's aid. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing to talk about for sure. I mean, at least I guess they picked their target. They pick somebody who's got no friends. We already talked a lot about it, about how Germany democracy was undermined and fell apart. The Americans need to learn about this and start seeing the historical parallels. I think that that's one direction. I think the other direction is I get the feeling that the Americans aren't going to learn unless they're actually hit with a stick. You know what I mean? Like metaphorically hit with a stick, by the way. Like you just whack them on the head. Like, they're just gonna get beaten down by their own government and their own people, and this situation is just gonna keep beating them down until it's bad enough. And right now is not bad enough. And what I'm trying to get across to any American, I am begging you, I am pleading you, please remember the things that you said you were never going to forget. And please, for the love of fucking God, acknowledge that none of these things up until this point have been bad enough for people in America to care. And I think that says a lot about you as a people. And maybe you should consider that. And maybe you should think about that and sit with it for a little while. Because I don't think I'm the only one who thinks that, and I don't think I'm the only one who's noticed. For the love of God, you have access to the internet. You do not have to rely on your shitty-ass fucking media coverage. Get help. Please. Please, I beg of you. Alright, that's it. I'm done. If we want to start talking about solutions, I am more than happy. Hey, Mikey! Should I wait for the raid and then start my stream over again? Oh, there's 2. Look, it got doubled up. Thank you for the stretch. Oh. Ugh. I guess Trump is too incompetent to make World War III happen. That might be the case, but that's the thing. Just because he is, or just because we believe that he is, does not mean that whoever comes after him won't be. And that doesn't mean that whoever comes after him doesn't have to come after him immediately after. This is the again, I'm back to this is the fucking problem. I'm back to the issue at hand being, my guys, Donald Trump is not the issue. If you get rid of Donald Trump, because we did it. You had 1 term of Donald Trump. You had 1 term of almost entirely under Democrat control. And then you just got double Donald Trump and it's worse. So that doesn't fucking help. You need to do more than just have an election. Mr. President says, for 5 says, Viva la Europe, LOL. There's been so many of these wars have taken place in Europe, too. So many of these wars have taken place in Europe. You got a raid from the bin! Hey, thanks so much, bin. Good to see you guys. Thanks for coming by. This has been a stream. I'm doing a stream of trying to tell Americans that they need to acknowledge the problem to fix the problem. There's too many Americans who seem to think there is no problem. Fight fascism, see a therapist. Yeah, there's also that. Good fucking God. Hi from the UK. Hello. Canadian. Friend. There's one other thing that we should talk about, actually, as a comparison point. By the way. There's one other thing. Government reform. Yes. Government reform is a really big thing. It's not easy to do. Chesh is trying to make Americans great again. I'm doing my best. Okay, this is why I wore my bunny hat today, because I need people to, like, calm down. Calm down. Everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. Don't get upset. Everything's fine. We have... Oh, hold on. I got a hair clip. Everything's okay. We have a bunny hat. Everything's fine. Look at the bunny hat. Look at the bunny. Look at the bunny. Look at the bunny. The bunny is very cute. Don't freak out. The bunny is very cute. Don't be mad. Don't get mad. Get glad. If you're getting mad at stating things the way they are, then this is a you problem. You need to accept that the way things are. If you cannot accept that this is the way things are, and the way things are makes you feel personally attacked, then that's a you problem, and you need to get over that. You need to get over it. You need to take that and take that feeling and compartmentalize it and put it on the shelf and be like, okay, that's the way things are. It hurts my feelings, but that's the way things are. And now we need to deal with the problem. And we need to unpack the problem. Don't wear that bunny hat in the United States. Your dad might get deported. Ah, shit. Article 5 of amending the Constitution can be done either through Congress or state legislation. Congress currently is not going to happen. State legislation is the best route at the moment. I would agree with that. If you are in the United States, if you are an American who lives in the United States, you are a U.S. citizen, you are currently represented by your government. Correct? Yes? The people who have been voted in by the people into power represent you. That's how it works. So, you're associated. You might disagree with them. You might think they're wrong. You might think they're abhorrent people. That's good, I would agree with you. But they represent you. And you're associated with them. Because they're in charge of where you live. Because the people where you live voted them into power. Even if you didn't vote them into power, even if you didn't vote for them. And if you cannot acknowledge that, then you're never going to be able to change it. And you're never going to be able to change it until you can get on the same fucking page. And right now, none of the Americans, the people in America are not on the same fucking page. Because of the hyper-individualism. Ah! One thing we should talk about before I go is a comparison point. Everybody likes to compare America and Canada, and part of that is because we came about at similar times, we have similar histories, we at one point had a lot of similar people living, right? There was a lot of integration, and, you know, we're geographically close and similar in, like, we're neighbors, right? All right, great, cool. We've acknowledged that. How does the rest of the world view Canada right now versus how the rest of the world views the United States right now? Because from what I can tell, people really like Canada. And in fact, even before this fucking mess, even before this current administration and its first term and the fucking mess that America is making all over the fucking world right now, and then getting testy about if you say that they did it. Even before all this, there's been an ongoing meme, there's been an ongoing joke of Canadians being irritated at Americans abroad because Americans were slapping Canadian flags on their backpacks when they traveled so people around the world would treat them better because they were Canadians, thus slowly ruining Canadians' reputations for being good guests when we travel. You fucking assholes! My fucking God. Could you fucking not? I can't fucking believe this. Hey, Giant Manya. Viper2 said, can you do a co-show with the bin? I would love to do a co-show with the bin. I would love to be invited. Woo! I would love to be invited onto, yeah, if you want that to happen, super chats make that happen. I would love to be invited on the bin. So yeah, please, by all means, please invite me onto the bin. Bring me over. And also the bin can come over here. I'm more than happy to invite them both on here and on Debate Hub. I want Mikey to come on Debate Hub too, because I had something I wanted to talk to him about, but I've forgotten what it was. It's really hot in here now because of this hat. Mr. President for 5 says, I'd love to be all high and mighty as a German, but our big guy is not as bad as Trump, but sometimes pretty close. Yeah, there are things and stuff that are yikesy. Gio's heading to bed. Have a good night, Gio. I told my stepmom to put a Canadian flag on her backpack. Yeah, see? Fucking assholes. You guys fucking suck, dude. If we were just to go down the list of being like, hey, American, we'd be like, what was that robot, that junk robot that was traveling around, like it traveled from like fucking one side of Canada to the other and then it spent one day in Detroit and got trashed? Like, you want to look at the difference between like Niagara Falls on the Canadian side versus what Niagara Falls looks like on the southern side of the border? Like, if you really want to play these comparison games, it's not going to make people in the United States very happy with their, and like, you guys got to stop blaming each other, and you got to stop taking everything so personally. We're back to that idealism, right? That hyper individualism. The hyper individualism that says like, it's not me, it's you. That hyper-individualism that's like, it's these guys over here. It's not me. It's not the guy I voted for. And it's so divisive. The friendship bot. Yeah, you remember. Yeah. Orange. That's it. You've got it. To me, being associated with fascists is close enough to being one. As far as the rest of the world views America, Americans are fascists right now. Again, that does not mean that every single American is a fascist as an individual. You have to get out of that headspace. Get out of the hyper-individual headspace. That doesn't mean you're not an individual. You need to get out of the hyper-individual headspace. The rest of the world does not have the privilege of sifting through every individual in your country about whether they are or are not a fascist. The world views Americans and America as a fascist country, and that is only going to get worse as we go. And I agree that that is a bad thing. You do not want that. That is bad. That is icky. Nobody wants. That is a bad thing. But if you do not acknowledge or cannot acknowledge that that is in fact a thing, and I don't mean you, the individual, I mean you, the general. If America cannot acknowledge that that is a thing, and they're too busy being like denialist about it, being like, well, I'm not a fascist, I don't agree with this, I think this is terrible, you're not acknowledging the problem in a productive way that is going to enable you to fix it. If it's not what you want. So at this point, because you don't want to do anything to fix it, again, general you, not you specifically, not you the individual, if you don't want to do anything to fix it, that means that this is what you want. Or whatever it is not bad enough yet for you to be put into motion. And that is what the rest of the world is seeing. They are seeing that people in the United States either don't care enough or are fine with what's going on. They're fine enough with what's happening. You don't see large-scale protests. Don't get me wrong, there are large protests that are happening, but there is no consistent outrage at everything that has gone on in the United States. You don't see people protesting outside of the White House. That's not happening. That's not in the news. If it is happening, it hasn't made it to global news yet. So what the fuck are you doing? What is the world supposed to think? What is the rest of the world supposed to believe? Are they just supposed to go out of their way and, not assume the worst? When your fucking president is out here making dipshit ass statements like this about declaring war? Are you kidding me? After the the direct threats and economic terrorism that that the administration has been doing around the globe, and the actual the war crimes about shooting boats in the middle of the ocean, do you really think it is reasonable for people in the rest of the world to just put Americans in each a special little box? And take a fucking big-ass risk? No! That's not gonna happen. That's not reasonable. I'm in the naughty list. That's okay. I'm in the YouTube naughty list. I belong in the YouTube naughty list. This is fair and reasonable. Folks are stomaching Nazis in their pub. Yes. Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. America is the pub, and Americans are fine with Nazis in their pub. That's it. That's the analogy. You're the Nazi bar. Come to debate pub, there's no Nazis. Well, I can't guarantee that there'll be no Nazis, but I can guarantee that they won't be platformed, and I can guarantee that they're gonna get bricks thrown at them if they show up. A fascist to an authoritarian regime which also wants imperialism. Yeah, that's fair. The protests in front of the White House are coming and rarely reported on. Right, but again, you don't rely on American reporting, right? You don't rely on the regime's propaganda machine for the reporting, right? If you're an American, what you would want to do is you would want to look at news outside of the United States. So you want to go find people who are reporting on the United States that are from other countries. Whether that be Canadian, Canadian would probably be the easiest for like culture purposes to be able to understand really easily. But other than that, you could go to like the BBC would probably be the next closest. You could go to learn another language and see what Japan is saying about America right now. That'd be interesting. But yeah, I feel like I could say that, but I feel like if I were to ask an American, they'd be like, "Oh, I never even considered looking at news from Japan." I'd be like, "What is the fucking why are we here?" This is why we're here. This is the reason why we're here. We made it here because, fuck me, other places exist outside of America, and those places matter, and they do things, and there's more than just everywhere else. In fact, some of them are actually different places. Wow! And I think one of the most insulting things about it is that, like, Canada and America have been so integrated for so long, and nobody expects any American to know dick shit about Canada. In fact, one of my favorite things that is the worst is that the footage that most of the high schools show you in school of World War II happening, of the beach landings, that's not Americans. That footage isn't Americans. And they don't fucking tell you that. That is not footage of Americans storming the beach. That is Juno Beach. It was stormed by the Canadians. Those are Canadian soldiers that you're watching die. And the reason why it's that footage instead of any other footage is because the Canadian footage is the only footage that survived. You're welcome. I believe we stormed 2 beaches. So one of them would have been Juno and the other one was... not Dieppe. Dieppe was a different fight. I'd have to look it up. I don't remember. But alas. Have fun in your Nazi bar, I guess, until you get rid of the Nazis. I don't know. Next time, on Thursday, tomorrow's my day off. On Thursday, we're gonna look at a real leader going around doing 100 deals in 100 days. I'm being hyperbolic. On Thursday, we're gonna talk about Mark Carney, and we're gonna talk about he went to Japan, he went to Australia, he went to India, he did give some speeches and stuff, so we're gonna watch some of those speeches. So I would recommend that Americans, if you're from the United States, you should come and watch on Thursday so you can stop being normalized. Can you stop being fucking normalized to this insane bullshit that your administration is fucking doing? Was it just Juno? I have to go and look again. It's been a while. Congratulations, Prime Minister Horton, on getting his double-double. Bro, if you guys have never watched that's a real thing. That's a real... Fucking Rick Mercer. You guys don't know who Rick Mercer is. You know who Rick Mercer is if you're Canadian. Rick Mercer was like our late night guy in Canada. And he traveled... and he... Sword. Yep. Yeah. Maybe we'll cover World War II sometime. You know what? I shouldn't be the one covering World War II. Go watch somebody who's better at history than I am to cover World War II. And go look at some of the stuff that Winston Churchill was saying about Canada during World War II. It's very, very, very interesting. Anyway. What was I saying? Oh, Rick Mercer. Rick Mercer traveled to the United States. And he went up to random Americans on the street and asked them questions about Canada, or told them that some factoid about Canada, or asked them a question about something that Canada was doing, and all of it was fake. And not a single fucking American realized it was fake. There was a joke about how we were getting rid of the $5 bill, and we were going to make a $5 coin, and we were going to call it the Woody. We told them that our parliament building was made of ice, and we were worried that climate change was going to make it melt. There was a question about asking Americans for advice on what we should do about the polar bears in Toronto because we catch them, we round them all up, and we airlift them to Alberta. We drop them off in Calgary, and then they're back the next day. What should we do about it? We've been thinking about building a fence along the border between the provinces, and they were like, yes, you should build a fence. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? These are things that, like, congratulations, Canada, on getting your second area code. And this was, like, in the 90s. This is like, fucking, good God. You fucking, what a clown show. We are literally your best northern neighbor that has worked with you for decades, since your founding, that you have integrated your trade with, and you don't even know what our capital is. Half of the Americans think our capital is fucking Toronto. We just invade, and then half of us are like, oh, well, America would try to invade us, and then they invade Toronto thinking it was our capital, and we'd all be like, that's not our capital building, you fucking morons. We think you're stupid. Good fucking God. Canadians think Americans are stupid at this point. We used to not think you were stupid. We used to think you were ill-informed or ignorant. Now we think you're fucking dumb. Fuck! Guys! And nobody's splitting hairs about it anymore. Everybody's just like, no, fuck you guys. Everybody's like, it's actually very funny, but I feel bad for the Americans, because the Americans are just not used to people just telling them to fuck off the way that's happening, and then they're getting really upset about it. And I'm like, yeah, fair, but maybe this is a you problem. Maybe this is something you need to do. All right, let's get out of here. My voice is gonna go. I don't know if you can tell. Ugh. All right, we should come back. We should come back on another day and start talking about how to solve some of these problems. So if you have some ideas about how to solve some of these problems, link in the description down below. It's to quote Trump, they're laughing at us, at our stupidity. A little bit, yeah. Like, when you have people running around being like, we're gonna bomb the shit out of these people, and then we're gonna laugh about how many of them we killed extra by accident, people are gonna have an issue with you. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. Like, share, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed. I know this was a bit much. I know this was a bit of a heavy topic. I hope it helps. And then another stream we can talk about, once we've acknowledged what the problem is, we can start looking at ways to solve it. Yeah, fuck ICE. That's a big fucking problem. But yeah, you know what? If Americans want Canadians to fucking care about America, then you should stop abducting our people with your ICE agents from our side of the border. Like, that'd be great. Don't do that. Stop. Cease. Desist. Look at my cute clover plant. Fingers crossed that this plant does well. Thank you for joining me. Good fucking God. Catch you guys in the replay. Have a good day, and I will see you Thursday. Bye.